if you thought that time would maybe tamp down some of the rhetoric around Joe Biden's debate performance, you were mistaken. It seems to only be getting worse. In fact, far from easing anxieties about his candidacy, the president's sit-down with George Stephanopoulos, ABC News, should further alarm Democratic leaders. Biden's remarks indicated that his party may be heading toward a worst-case scenario, one in which the president is largely incompetent as a campaigner, but not so consistently and flagrantly inept that his incapacity to win re-election becomes undeniable even to himself. In other words, Joe, what the pundits are saying is Joe Biden is losing it, but he's not losing it enough. He's only half losing it right now.
Yeah, and I think that causes a huge problem for the Democrats, obviously, who are losing it, which would be the race for the presidency, even though Biden's been trailing the whole way. Indecisiveness, you would have a lovely zippy phrase for what to say about it, but indecisiveness does not give voters any degree of confidence heading towards November.
No, in fact, I would say that this is very similar to how the stock market works. What does the stock market hate more than anything? And that is
uncertainty.
Volatility. Yeah. Uncertainty. Exactly right. Exactly right. And so I think what we're getting right now is voters kind of experiencing what investors experience, and that is uncertainty brings us unease. It'd be one thing if we went, okay, Joe Biden is not going to be able to be the guy, and so the next person moves in, and so everybody can kind of move forward. It feels like we're in a weird political purgatory right now. And I don't know about you, but conversations I've been having with people seem to be things like, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Obviously. Mm-hmm. And then will he make it to the convention? Will he make it to the next debate? Will he make it to the election? And remember, Democrats are also trying to point at Trump, and they're saying, well, listen, Trump is, he's losing it too, and if you think that Trump is has got all of his faculties, well, you're really mistaken. And listen, I saw the debate. There was a stark contrast. I think, what did you say? You gave Joe Biden a 2, and you gave Trump
10. Like a 7.5.
A 7. Yeah, and I gave Biden a 1 and Trump a 6. And what I think this, if we were to come up with a parallel of this, we have two guys who are really old. There were questions about Trump's cognitive abilities when he was president, and that's why he ended up doing that cognitive test. Remember, man, woman, person, TV, camera, or whatever it was that he did? You remember that sit-down interview where he had to remember 5 things? Right. So it's almost like when you're watching NASCAR and you're coming near the end of the race. You've got 50 laps left to go. And the announcers are getting excited. We've got 50 laps left to go, but we've checked with the pit crews, and they say it's going to be close. They think they only have 49 laps of gas left. And so the question is, will they stop and take a pit change, or will they try to eke it out on fumes? And so we're all left with bated breath, wondering, is one or both of these guys even going to make it? I mean, from a health standpoint, will they even get to the finish line? Because what I saw from Joe Biden, honestly, it hurt me. I had a grandfather who had Alzheimer's. I had my grandmother started experiencing dementia near the end, and then there were all these questions. And listen, the more I think about that Joe Biden thing, in fact, I talked about it the day after the debate. Are we perhaps seeing an instance of sundowning? And then all of a sudden that became the big theme last week, sundowning, and is he losing his mind? Is he not going to? Is he not with it during hours that, of course, we need a president to be on call? So I feel like we're all left kind of wondering, is this even the best thing for him? As a person, I start to wonder, maybe it's time for somebody to enjoy their golden years and for the family to spend as much time with him as possible. Remember, in 2016, he decided not to run because he wanted to be with his family.
Yeah, the White House press secretary was fielding all kinds of questions about that today.
The White House says that as part of his last 3 physicals, President Biden's been seen by a neurologist.
Has the president been treated for Parkinson's? No. Is he being treated for Parkinson's? No, he's not. Is he taking medication for Parkinson's? No.
A doctor who's a Parkinson's expert visited the White House 8 times over an 8-month span between last July and March of this year, including one visit with the president's personal physician. That's according to the White House visitor logs. The White House would not say specifically why this expert was visiting the White House.
So not being treated for Parkinson's, okay, but he is still 81 years old, and you can't deny what you saw on stage the other day. It looked really bad, and you've got Biden now sitting down with George Stephanopoulos the other day from ABC News. Today he was on with Morning Joe. He wrote this long 2-page letter, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I'm sure other people wrote it for him, and he just signed off on it. But none of these things sow seeds of confidence. I love your analogy about, we've got 50 laps to go. Well, I would alter it slightly and say Biden's got about 6 laps of gas in him, and there's 50 laps to go.
Well, yeah, I think that's what we're wondering. How much gas is in the tank? And it sure looked like Trump had a better tank when it came to that debate, and now all of us are kind of wondering as we get closer and closer to November. You mentioned the call into the Morning Joe this morning on MSNBC, and Biden said that the party elites want him out, but that ordinary voters stand behind him. Axios follows up by saying the polls suggest that's simply not true. If anything, swing voters and many committed Democrats were questioning his fitness long before the party bigwigs. Biden's quote, "I'm getting so frustrated by the elites," on Morning Joe. "If any of these guys don't think I should run against me, announce for president, challenge me at the convention." Well, you can't do that because the delegates are already committed. And the way that they have the party rules now, committed delegates have to vote, at least in the first round, for the person for whom they're committed.
I'll give the president. He did sound fired up this morning with Morning Joe.
I'm getting so frustrated by the elites. Now, I'm not talking about you guys, but about the elites.
This is what you were talking about right here, Chris. I was getting frustrated with the elites, but you can hear some pep in his voice here.
In the party, who they know so much more. But if any of these guys don't think I should run against me, go ahead, announce for president. Challenge me at the convention.
But the problem is the country deserves better than what a lot of people have thrown out there do we have a 10-4 president now? Somebody who you can prop him up in the chair, and if he gets, 12 hours of sleep, he can function from 10A to 4P.
Boy, you hit the nail on the head, because I was just thinking, as you said, he called this show, and it's called Morning Joe. How would he do if he had to call Evening Devin? How did I come up with Devin?
I don't know.
I normally go with like a Tom or a Larry or a Harold. Devin.
It's very
I've been
woke,
hanging out with,
it's good.
Hanging out with Gen Zs too long, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, so
Evening
what's
Devin.
Devin, I pulled it. On Sunday, there was a meeting. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries assembled his caucus for a phone call to discuss Biden's candidacy, and according to NBC News, there was an overwhelming sense among lawmakers that Vice President Kamala Harris would be a better nominee than Biden, and yet only 4 Democratic representatives publicly called on Biden to step aside in the meeting's wake. Adam Smith, Jerry Nadler, Mark Takano, is that how you say his name? And Joe Morelle. All 4 hold top positions on major Democratic committees. Altogether, nearly a dozen House Democrats had called for Biden's exit as of Sunday evening. And Joe, I know last week you and Steve Goldstein were talking about Raul Grijalva. I was trying to remember. Remember how to say the name, Joe.
Yeah, he's no
This is
spring
what
chicken.
happens when I go on vacation.
He's no spring chicken himself. Raul Grijalva is 76, is dealing with, I'm pretty sure it's stomach cancer. Definitely has cancer back here in Arizona. He called for President Biden to step down himself, and to me, it feels a little bit hypocritical. And I feel the reason Grijalva did that is he knows he's in a totally safe district, and even if Biden would get the boot, he's not in any fear of not getting reelected. But at the end of the day, who is Raul Grijalva, who's 76, to sit there and go, hey, this guy needs to step down when he's still running with a diagnosed illness?
Yeah, that's a great question. Although, isn't there a difference between somebody who's suffering from a physical ailment versus a cognitive ailment?
Well,
I feel like there's a big differentiation there.
Definitely a difference there, but Grijalva, again, is 76. Not a huge difference from 81, Biden's age, to Grijalva at 76. It's not like Grijalva's in his mid-40s or even 50s calling on Biden to step down. I personally, if you're in your mid-70s or older, I would be just fine if we had, just like there's rules on the young end, the early ages, you can't run for president unless you're what?
35.
So why should you be able to run for president if you're 75 or 81? Why can't we have a nice little middle zone there?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And remember, Arizona Supreme Court, we've got the age restrictions. In fact, we just voted on whether or not we wanted to raise those age limits on the Arizona Supreme Court, and it was decided by the voters, no. Which begs the question, Biden, should he stay or should he go? How do you like that, huh?
That's very nicely done.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. All right. How about reasons that Joe Biden should stay in the race?
Okay.
All right. How about this? We're past the point of no return.
I agree.
That we are so late in this. Even if we take a look back at Lyndon Johnson, he dropped out in March. That gave more ramp-up time, but it certainly didn't help the Democrats. And that race in 68 went to Nixon. So we are really late on this. Could somebody step in last minute, have enough cachet and profile, name recognition, all of those things, and be able to siphon off votes from even moderates who have concerns about Trump and be able to win the White House? I'm not so sure. You and I have kicked names around. I still think probably the highest profile name who would be ready to go is Gavin Newsom. He says no, he's not interested. I don't know who else could pop in for the Democrats and make waves right now. There are no good options. They may be beyond the point of no return.
Last week, Kamala Harris's name got thrown out there that it would be easiest to transition things onto her. Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer's been thrown out there. I know Moore and Shapiro, who are governors in Maryland and Pennsylvania. Their names have been thrown out there. Shapiro for sure, seeing as Pennsylvania's a swing state, but I'm not sure if Whitmer or Shapiro could swing their states for the Democrats. And there was all this talk about a blitz primary, and would Biden step down? Could he step down? And could they have these candidates go out there and essentially sit down with some influential Democrats, the Oprahs, Michelle Obamas of the world, leading up to the convention, and sit down there and have them, of course, only campaign positively and engage with the voters, do all these things, and then let the delegates choose one of the six who they eventually would pick, and then line up somebody on the third day of the convention. I mean, yeah, potentially
that's chaos.
It's way too close to November to make this happen. I agree with you. We're past the point of no return.
Which brings me to another point. That is the reason to stay in the race, and you kind of mentioned it when you mentioned Harris. That is continuity. If you are going to replace Biden, I think Harris is the logical one for continuity's sake. And also there's the legal obstacles you have to get past if you are going to replace Joe Biden. So stay in the race and you don't have to deal with that. You don't have to deal with, who can the PAC spend money on? Who is it committed to? Who, if you've made a donation to the Biden-Harris campaign and Biden is not on the ticket any longer, what happens to that money? There are legal questions around this, and there are legal questions over releasing those delegates. Can somebody just say, have at it? Vote on for whomever you please. Not so sure about that. And I also want to bring one other thing up, and that is, this is the guy Democrats voted for in the primaries. Now, I don't know if he defrauded the voters and didn't disclose a condition, but he's the guy that people said, yeah, we want him. That's how the primaries work. Now, granted, the Democrats didn't run anybody against him. They didn't want the chaos then, but boy, they've got chaos now. What about reasons he should go? You want to start this one? Because I've got a few different thoughts on this.
Look no further than the way that debate went. What was that, a little over a week ago now?
Yeah.
He was a disaster on stage. He looked like he should be seated in front of a television, eating Jell-O, pudding, insert whatever you want to.
Oatmeal.
There you go.
And prunes.
So I would say that is the biggest reason right there. Leading up to the debate, the president had silenced a lot of those critics with how well he handled the State of the Union, and people were seriously questioning it before the State of the Union, and then he delivered for Biden what was, many have said, his best speech ever.
I thought he had all the energy, put all the doubters to the side.
But then all of those questions and more came back with after the debate. So I would kick things off right there of he should go, but he should have went 6 months or a year ago, not now.
Other reasons to go. I think we need a leader to lead, and what we're seeing is not the guy that anybody would confidently follow. He's not the guy. For Democrats or left-leaning independents, they feel like they're choosing right now between a guy who's wandering aimlessly or a guy that is promising to lead them off a cliff. So for Democrats, it's not a great option. The GOP, on the other hand, they're in the catbird seat right now. They're following a guy that they feel very confident is going to lead them and the country in the right direction. So it's kind of like when a company starts hiring a CEO, they want the inspirational leader that people want to follow. No board in America would hire Joe Biden to be their president and CEO. And yet, that's what Biden expects the American people to do. As much as there's a very limited amount of time that people would have in order to get to know a new candidate, there is something about that label. You've seen it on stores before, right? Under new management, new and improved. The new candidate would get a sticker attached to them that the GOP would then have to work to remove. The GOP would have to say, no, they're not new and improved. It's the same old thing, right? A fresh face on what has looked like a tired administration might be the spark that motivates the young Latino, the black voters, to head to the polls. I think maybe they even hang one of those signs, under new management, on the dais or put it behind the podium every time this person speaks. But again, for the Republicans, they are in the seat right now. And what they can do right now is wait. So I've heard from some of my friends who are insiders, they're planning. They're planning for contingencies. They're saying, okay, what is our attack plan if it's Harris? What is our attack plan if it's Newsom? What is our attack plan if it's Moore, Shapiro, Whitmer, the others that you named? What do we do? So all they're doing right now is they're just coming up with plan B, plan C, plan D, plan E, plan F, all these different things. They don't really have to focus a whole lot on the Trump v. Biden race at this point. They're planning for contingencies. And as long as Trump doesn't have a major, and I mean major stumble before the election, they're driving this thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
I'm glad we agree.
No,
It's the smartest thing you've said all day, Joe. I love it.
Thank you. Well, no, I do agree with you. And the one pushback that I would have is people who love Trump are all in on him. I do still think there are a lot of people who want to vote GOP, who don't love Trump, who just won't go Biden, and they're not going to go third party. And if there was another nominee out there, that they would entertain Nikki Haley or a Marco Rubio or somebody like that. But they know what they've got in Trump, and they certainly feel better than what the Democrats feel they have in Biden.
Yeah, I would say that the GOP's bench is deeper, too, with recognizable names, just having gone through the primaries here of late. I think that we know some names from the Republicans, so if they had to go to their bench, which I don't think they're going to have to, I think their bench is deeper at this point as far as name recognition.
No, come on. The Democrats had the options of Biden or not Biden in some states.
You're right. And in some states, he didn't even get on the ballot. They had to write him in. If you watch the polling numbers and you try to predict the winner of the election, you know the most important piece of data is turnout.
Thanks for watching The Chris and Joe Show. Click to see more from Chris and Joe and tap the button in the middle to subscribe to KTAR News.